welcome to Big Storm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Ben Slinger, and with me, as always, is Trevor Scott.
Hello.
Hello. We are doing this again. What are we doing tonight, Trevor? Are we going to go into some classic old click pitch, or...?
I think we're going to start with click pitch and then we're going to mix it up a bit, just because we didn't do that in the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, all right. So let's jump into some ramped up click pitch. This is a game where we each have a random word generator in front of us, and on the count of 3, 2, 1, click, we're each going to get an adjective and a noun. We're going to read them out. We're going to make up some sort of game design based on it, or even, you know, sometimes lately it's just kind of been a story and we jam it into a game at the end and
and jam it into a match 3 games.
Yeah.
Jam it in there. Jam it up in there.
But, you know, we have fun with the world building and we have fun with it all. So,
yeah, and hopefully you have fun along the way as well.
That's the
Dear
goal.
listener.
That's the goal. So let's jump right in. 3, 2, 1,
3, 2, 1, click. Jet married.
Unhappy drift.
Ooh, okay. Rocket. I'm taking jet as in, you know, jet stream. You've rocketed up into the into space. Something's gone awry. Your spaceship is now adrift.
Okay.
And your marriage is kind of on the rocks.
Okay, so you're a married couple on a rocket, on some sort of shuttle, some sort of ship, drifting through space. I like it. Are you the only 2 people on the ship? Or
I think there are some other people on the ship, a la your typical sort of thing people are in stasis. And your shift is 6 months.
Oh, okay. I like that. So it's essentially, it's some sort of, you know, long-term colony ship or something, like long-term travel. But yes, like the stasis systems that we have, they need monitoring, maybe even, you know, people can't stay in them super long-term. They need to come out for regular breaks. So... yeah, it gets taken in shifts. So I like that as a framing device then, because we can have different segments of the game in different shifts, essentially, where, like, it may be that 3 years has passed since your last shift of 6 months, because there's, you know, 8 people or something on the ship, and you do it in and I think they do it in pairs. You do the shifts in pairs because they found that if, you know, they have someone isolated for that long, they go space crazy. Yeah,
but I think what actually happens is each person does a 6-month shift, but it's sort of like you do 3 months with one person, and then you do 3 months with another person.
They overlap. Yeah, and
they overlap so that you don't get 6 months pure with one person.
Yep. I like that. And then you can have some really interesting relationship dynamics where, yeah, you can be discussing these other people and they're in status, like they can't talk back, and it's this sort of...
Oh, and it's the whole thing about, like, the trust that you've got to have with your marital partner.
Mm-hmm.
Who, you know, is asleep. You're basically, you're awake with her for some reason, only 3 months, and then, you know, you're awake with someone else for 3 months. But what happened in that 3 months before you woke up? Do you actually have the trust of your partner that nothing else happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
And now you're talking with the captain's wife because, you know,
that's who you happen to overlap with this time.
That's who you have an overlap with this time. Mm. And she's got the same, you know, feelings. You try to look back at the logs,
the footage and stuff. Yeah,
like there's whole days worth of ship logs missing and all this sort of stuff, and it's just,
yeah, I like that building. I like playing with the relationship stuff and the paranoia of that and the trust, but in this interesting environment. I think you can definitely build that up in the player and give them the option to go back and look. But then, like, if your partner finds out that you did that, you know, there's like, oh, like, you don't trust me. You know, why? What? That was a legitimate glitch. and we resolved it, but nothing happened, and do you believe them? That's kind of cool. I like that. How would you structure a game like this, do you think? How, like, gameplay wise, obviously there's going to be a fair bit of dialogue and stuff, but it'd also be fun to explore the ship and be able to wander around
I think it's one of these games that sort of each chapter happens at a certain point. So, it's kind of along the lines of there'll be a large period of time where nothing really happens, so you don't want to necessarily show what this person's going through there, but you then show, it's a month later and they're really bored out of their brains because nothing has happened in the last month. But now that they're back into it, that something's going to happen during this chapter.
Yeah, I think you just jump into, little vignettes essentially where it might just be a discussion between the two people. It might be, there's a problem we have to solve. Like, you need to do a spacewalk and go out and fix something, or like remote control a robot out there or something.
Ooh, I just had a thought that, cause your spacewalk, it gave me an idea that, like, you're sort of looking out there and you see like a weak point on the outside of the ship. So you go out there to repair it. But as you're going to repair it, you find out that, like, there's another airlock that leads into a part of the ship that you don't have access to from the inside.
Yep.
And you're like, hang on, what's going on here? Yes, this part is damaged, but then you can sort of sneak inside and you can maybe find like an extra, like, sort of science laboratory or something like that where they're doing some experiments that you don't, they're not documented at all, and they've got another log, and you see your wife's name in the log.
Yeah, that you could
and definitely, you don't know whether she's actually had access to this or whether she's been experimented on, or like, all you know is that her name is being mentioned in this log, and then you find your name as well.
I kind of like the idea then that this whole thing is a psychological experiment. Maybe you find out at the end that, like, you haven't even gone anywhere. You're just in orbit or somewhere, and no, that might be too much, but
actually on Earth in a building, and it's just they managed to put a vacuum in there
and like low anti-gravity and stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to be anti-gravity. You could have been told about the, artificial gravity system or whatever. I like the idea of just adding different mysteries. I also like the idea of, like, after a few of these rounds, you get woken up early for something, like there's some malfunction or someone intentionally wakes you up to help them fix something, and you do get a bit more. So then you have like 3 people awake at a time, which is unusual, and you get to have different discussions happening there.
I'm picturing that during this time, like, you're seeing that, like, the 2 people that are awake are really arguing, and they're arguing really it's getting quite heated, nasty and heated. It's neither one are wanting to give up, and they're sort of using you as an arbitrator almost, and you got to try and take sides and
try to mediate a bit.
Because that could be fun, and then you find out that you've actually been woken up, only a year and a half into your 3-year stint in cryo.
Exactly.
But the way that it actually works is you can't go back in for, like,
it has to be a 3-year
2 years or whatever it is, because the way once it's turned on,
the way it's calibrated and such,
it won't reactivate for another 2 years. So now you're stuck in there for 2 years. Throughout all these people's.
And you're going to end up so much older you're going to end up 2 years older than everyone else or something. Having to deal with that as well.
I know. I quite like this idea. It's you don't have to have that many characters because you're only really talking to the same two characters all the time.
Yeah,
you have so much happening.
Yeah, mostly you're only talking to the same two characters. You can maybe, add one or two in here and there if you do have those periods of like, oh, now maybe it's not the whole 2 years, but maybe it's like an extra year. And so you end up living through two other people's shifts, essentially.
But you realize that what's coming up is that, you're going to get a full 6 months with your wife, and maybe that's what you're looking forward to. And,
but that,
she finds that you're awake, and she actually gets a little bit disappointed when she sees that you're awake, and that's when you sort of realize
that things aren't maybe all good in the marriage. Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
Same here. I'm actually seeing this as a VR game.
It could be good, yeah.
Space in VR just feels right.
Yeah, and that's sort of real, like, conversational and, like, putting yourself in the character in that way.
Well, also being in cryo and...
Yeah, having the actual...
It closes down and you feel kind of claustrophobic, and then, it sort of goes to black and then comes up again, like...
And comes up and it's like,
really quick.
Like, disoriented, everything's changed.
Yeah.
Because, I love that idea of the environment changing over time. Depending on whose shift you're coming into, like there's different stuff on the walls, or maybe, one person's really messy, that you're joining the person who's really messy next or something. Or it's like the person who just went to sleep that whoever you're joining now had their first 3 months with was like a real fucking slob. And so this person's like, oh my God, thank God. Like, I've got a lot of work to do. We've got to clean this place up. It's disgusting.
Just don't ask what's on the walls.
Yeah, there was an alien invasion while you were asleep, but we dealt with it. It's really hard to get it out of the carpet. All right, 3, 2, 1, click.
Whose idea was to put carpet on this ship?
Needless treatment.
Planted void.
Ooh. A needless treatment, if you didn't hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Planted void. That's cool. It makes me think of like some sort of magical plant alchemy or something growing.
Yeah, void brings up ideas of horror to me. Like... there is a movie called The Void that harkens back to old 80s sort of horror with some body horror stuff happening and all this sort of stuff. And the majority of this movie happens in a hospital. So that's why it kind of brings me to that horror.
Well, with needless treatment as well makes me think of like
what happens when you're under anesthesia.
Yeah, like medical
What has been
things.
implanted in you.
Oh, implanted. Okay. I was wondering if we had some plant-based body horror where, like, you've got things growing out of your skin. We could still go in that direction.
No, it could still go into that direction, but just the idea of going down a horror direction and sort of... it's hard to explain what I want to get across, but the idea of not feeling yourself after a surgery.
Yeah, I kind of get what you want. Like, this is very much aspects of a psychological horror moving into, body horror sort of stuff, because I think it is that you want to have that unease after coming out of these surgeries, like I think multiple surgeries for whatever, like, and maybe you think you need them legitimately. But that you start noticing things about your body and like weird lumps under the skin and then eventually they like erupt in, I don't know, it'd be like a fucking like a rose or something, like a thorny rose plant or something comes out of you somewhere, and then somewhere else it's a different sort of plant. And
then the anesthetist just plants you in his garden and he goes, one more to add to the garden.
Yeah, totally. It's like some real freaky experimentation stuff. I'm not sure how you do that as a game. It does feel maybe
I think a lot
again.
of it a lot of it sort of comes in dream sequences, I think. Like, because that's one of the best ways of actually getting across what this character's thinking, because it's his subconscious that you're sort of seeing. How the normal, you know, parts of his life are gonna go ahead. Not 100% sure, but
yeah, is this? And I mean, this might be too similar in a way to. I think in the way we tell the story, it may be similar to the last game, but I'm almost picturing again sort of scenes broken up by these surgeries. So like you're spending time in hospital or at home, you know, in a bed because you're. You know, you've got some sort of degenerative disease or something, and they're trying they're trying to fix it with these experimental, you know, procedures. And so in between, it's like you're talking to your spouse, you're talking to your kids and stuff, or like other people at the hospital or the doctor, or like progressing the story in that way. And then, but every time there's like, okay, but now it's time for another surgery. And I think things changing in between in subtle ways as each surgery happens, and you're like, is this part of it? Is this something else?
I'm just imagining at one point, you know, you go to the doctor's office and you start talking about the ceaseless insomnia that you've had since the last surgery. And you're almost looking forward to the next time that you get into surgery where you get a good sleep again.
Yeah, as they put you under, for sure.
And that's where the nightmare world sort of starts to creep in, because I'm now sort of seeing as, Jeff, you've been away a long time.
Is this the nightmare man?
Yeah, and it's just
I like the idea
coming
of having
right at him.
I really like the flower imagery, and I like the idea that maybe in these dream sequences you're walking through a garden, like you're going through gardens and seeing flowers, and maybe that comes up as part of those dreams. But you don't obviously
you see little flower kids playing in the, you know, on the grass and all this sort of stuff.
And of course at that point it's just like, oh, this is a weird dream sequence. The player doesn't, like, obviously there's some symbolism there, but the player just expects it as a dream. But then yes, like in the last part of the game, or like later in the game, you're starting to see parts of your body change, and then eventually like start erupting with leaves and flowers. And I've almost got this image of of the humanoid figure just sitting there in the end, but they're just like completely made with like flowers and plants. Yeah, they're essentially like this topiary just sitting there. A bit like, what was it? What was that movie with Natalie Portman? And did you ever Abomination or something, or Armageddon?
Oh yes. I remember that,
because that had
I haven't seen it.
Plants, people turning into sort of topiary kind of things, didn't it? Yeah. Also makes me
kind of fucked up.
Think of Midsommar, which was not her turning into plants, but just the big plant outfit thing.
Oh, yeah, that was insane. 3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah. Revised combat.
Imperfect device.
Okay. So this brings me immediately to some sort of short-term time reversal device.
Mm-hmm.
Because revised combat made me think of like being able to redo a combat sequence if you fail or if you want to do it better. And so maybe that could be a gameplay element and a story element of kind of, I mean, I guess sort of a little bit of a Sands of Time rewind situation, or some sort of like save pointy sort of thing, where within a certain time frame you can jump back to the past and have another go.
Yeah, I really like the idea of bringing back that Sands of Time combat thing, where it's using those time mechanics of, oh, I didn't get this perfect, I can rewind just a little bit.
Just a little
before I died, and, it's sort of like a Dark Souls level difficulty that has those time rewinding abilities that, you can only use sparingly because, you've only got so much, sand back each time that you kill an enemy. But I like the idea that it is that sort of more streamlined action RPG that they do nowadays compared to the original Sands of Time.
Yeah.
Whereas the combat was very samey, whereas I find the combat in Dark Souls is very much, you need to look at how the characters are attacking and all this sort of stuff, and having that extra little thing of being able to rewind a little bit if you getting struck down is actually not a bad.
And I think also going up against crowds, it would be good. It would be interesting. And I was picturing maybe a bit closer to like an Arkham style or a Shadow of Mordor style combat system, but you could combine the two, have elements of both, where you do that, where that rewind ability does give you the opportunity to take on hordes of people. And yes, if you get overwhelmed, it's like, oh, okay, rewind a bit. Like, I know that they're going to attack me from this way. So like roll, get over to this side, roll over here and take, just revise your strategy essentially.
It's kind of like a really, really quick version of Edge of Tomorrow, where you don't have to go through the entire day again. You can just, redo that little section over and over and over. I mean, that's really what the Dark Souls games are anyway. They are, the Edge of Tomorrow. You can go back in and the whole day repeats the exact same way as if...
Yeah, I think that's cool. I wonder, essentially it's what it's doing is just giving you that very fast iterative loop of learning how to beat particular types of enemies, or like, okay, this is a new situation. I'm fighting, one of these big brute types that I can't, do a power attack on. And also, 3 of the little fast ones or whatever. Like, I haven't had this combination before, so it's a new set of things. But learning the techniques, that are going to work in this particular combination.
Yeah. You've realized that having, the short, fast sword, it's usually pretty good, but these guys are, they sort of get past you quite easily. Once they're close, they sort of lunge in and take you out. So if you can keep them at bay by keeping them really far away, by swinging the big hulking sword, which doesn't sound like it should actually work, but the idea is that you're swinging so wildly while and making them keep their distance, and
while you take out the big guy or something. Yeah,
having a different effect for the enemies and a different combat style depending on what you're wielding could be interesting. Like, basically then it means that there is a reason to learn all the different swords, because the idea is that your playing style isn't the only thing that you need to worry about. It's also how, I've come up against these fast guys before. They love it when I'm fighting with a fast sword. Yeah. Because they can just get in and, quickly attack and they can block everything.
Yeah.
Whereas they can't quite get the slow lumbering sword, or, if I pick up a chair and start fighting with that, they really don't know what to do because I'm sort of holding them back.
Yeah, I like that, using those different ways to essentially make your way through a combat, and having that fast iterative, repetitiveness to be able to learn it. I do think that
you're still going to have the occasional death where you're going to have to start back from your bonfire or whatever.
Yeah, I think kind of like Sands of Time, depending on the way it worked, you would run out of sand at times. I'm thinking that maybe as part of the combat, again, kind of like a Shadow of Mordor sort of thing or something, where you can do a finishing move on someone and have different effects. You can either recruit them or execute them or whatever. Or you can at times, I think, in that, like, you can pull health out of them or whatever, or pull, your powers out of them. But there are moves you can do to refresh some of your time stuff, whatever that ends up being in the sort of story. But, as usual, there might be downsides to that. Like, you have to stand still for a couple of seconds, so you can't do it at the wrong time, or you'll get interrupted or get attacked or whatever. So it's all, again, part of the strategy of it all.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it.
Graphics wise, are you seeing the sort of dark, gritty?
Well, so you were talking about swords, which is all well and good. I'm kind of over the whole sort of fantasy-ish, medieval-ish. Like, I don't play the Dark Souls games, and I know there was. Anyway, I was going to say swords, but in some sort of different environment would be more interesting to me.
Kind of like a sort of futuristic space marine sort of thing.
Yeah, or maybe like a cyberpunk-ish vibe where you've got some sort of like...
Well, they have kind of done a cyberpunk version called The Surge.
Well, was that cyberpunk? That was more Space Marine-ish, wasn't it? Because that's why I was... Yeah, I played a bit of The Surge. Yeah, I was sort of trying to take it in maybe a different aesthetic a bit and go a bit more neon, a bit more... maybe fighting in a cityscape as like a futuristic, built up city. That way.
And maybe the time thing is like a circuit in your brain that actually,
like an augmentation.
An augmentation where you've got kind of like slight bit of precognitive ability.
Yeah,
that. If you get hit, then you can basically rewind a little bit in time and say, no, I mustn't do that.
It's essentially you planning ahead at any point and being able to, see the possible futures until you decide on your actions. Yeah. That also then explains why you would only be able to go back a certain amount, as well.
Yeah, because, basically, depending on what level you've actually got, what level of augmentation depends on how far into the future that you can actually see.
Well, for sure. And then you can get upgrades as you go to perhaps get a bit more rewind time or have it, not use up as much of your power crystals or whatever it is that you're, that you're pulling out of other people. It literally just runs on blood. So either you fill it with the blood of your enemies, or in a pinch you use your own blood and essentially sacrifice some health for some rewind.
Drop of blood into the mouth.
I think it just automatically siphons it off your body, out of your body.
Constitution check. Make sure that you're not going to throw up.
Cool. Should we do a movie?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So we're going to grab a random movie from Trevor put together a little Discord addition to the Discord bot. What's the database it's pulling it from there, Trevor?
Most likely the IMDb, maybe.
No, I think it's the other one.
The movie database.
The movie section. Yeah, TMDB, I think.
Yeah, TMDB. The movie database.
The movie database. Yep. Cool.
What'd you get, Ben?
I got The People versus Larry Flint.
Okay, and I got Married to the Mob.
Okay. Neither of them. I mean, and to explain for people who might not know, we sometimes just take the title, we sometimes take the synopsis if we've seen the movie or know it, to turn it into a game. So, I think for either of these, if we take them, we just use the title.
Yeah. I don't know Married to the Mob at all. I know People versus Larry Flint, and I'd kind of like to stay away from some of that subject matter. But I do like the name Larry Flint.
Well, that's
so maybe Larry Flint is married to the mob. Like,
yeah, I think this is a different Larry Flint. It's not the hustler publisher, and it's not about his, battles in court. It's a very different situation with Larry Flint married to the mob. So is he married, like, literally into some sort of organized crime family?
Yeah, I think he's married the Don's daughter.
Okay.
Like, married into the family, not having really met her family. Like, Larry met Luisa at university and, fell head over heels in love with her. They eloped, and then, like, they went to New York City to meet her parents, and, like, literally her father's like a big Don Corleone sort of character.
Godfather sort of situation.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So it definitely has sort of comedic vibes.
Yes.
Wasn't there a Hugh Grant movie kind of like that? What am I thinking of?
Mickey Blue Eyes?
Yeah, I think so.
Mickey Blue!
Mickey Blue. So, Larry...
I don't know how I remember that, by the way. That just came out of, like, thin air. I have not thought about that movie.
I've seen that movie in probably, like, 15 years.
Yeah, maybe 20.
Okay. So...
Larry Flint, played by Woody Harrelson.
Played by 1996 Woody Harrelson, yeah.
Yeah, de-aged.
No, I think we need to pick a more modern, a more current cast for this.
Seth Rogen.
No, even he's too old. It needs to be someone, like, in their early 20s. Who's popular right now?
Channing Tatum. Zac Efron.
I think we're too old.
Tom Holland.
There you go.
Tom Holland.
There you go. All right. Yeah, he'd do a good job. Tom Holland as Larry Flint, but not that one.
not that one. Not that Larry Flint. But he's playing a character called Larry Flint, just not that one.
Yep. And yeah, okay. So is this then almost like a comedic version of the Mafia games? Is there, like, that sort of vibe, or?
Yeah, I'm kind of picturing that. He walks into the room to meet his new father-in-law for the first time. He's not happy because he didn't, like, there was no permission being asked for the hand in marriage and
blessing. Yep.
There was no blessing. He doesn't know what this guy's like, and so basically they put him through hell. Like, they send him out to do something and then sort of leave him alone in like a rival gang's territory and all this sort of stuff. Like,
yeah,
I'm picturing it's the worst hazing that Larry's ever gone through.
To avoid making Luisa a prop, essentially, does she join him on, like, does she kind of...
I'm thinking that she's a badass and she's the one that turns up and sort of saves Larry from this sort of stuff. Saying
well, I was almost thinking...
my father's always was always going to make this hard on you. Don't worry, I'm going to help you get through this and make you look good.
I kind of like it if she's struggling a bit too, though. Like, she went away to university... Maybe when she left, she was, like, too naive. She didn't sort of realize what was going on. And it's only in the past year or two that she's understood that
she did a couple of university courses and she realized, hang on, they're kind of talking about my family here.
Yeah, like, opened up her eyes a bit to what was happening in her family. She was she had the blinders on to all the crime, and like money laundering and shakedowns and whatever else that were going on. So I wonder if she's a bit antagonistic against her family too, and yeah, whatever sort of trials Larry gets put through, like, they actually are kind of both going through them. They're both going through them together and figuring it all out.
I kind of like this as a co-op game. That one of you plays Louisa, one of you plays Larry.
That's cool.
And as Larry and Louisa sort of getting through these missions together, you know, trying to do the right thing. And I think at the end of one of the missions, basically, I think the FBI or one of those sort of institutions comes up and basically says, look, we've caught you with all these weapons. We're going to arrest you, but if you help us out, then maybe we can work something out. Yeah,
essentially they want you to flip on her parents, on her family.
Yeah.
What are you doing there as a co-op pair then? Like, what is the gameplay situation? Is this like stealth and I don't know, distraction?
Well, one of you will be a driver. One of you will be the sort of delivery person, you know, trying to deliver some stuff.
Okay.
And it was a setup basically
I'm just, that's fine.
From the mob, like, and all this sort of stuff. Basically, you're working together trying to do these small little things. So and then it gets a little bit corny. Yeah. Is it different missions then, essentially, with sort of varied gameplay? Where I think each person has like a, you know, there's going to be times in the missions that you're not doing too much, but there's also going to be times that, you know, it's time critical that you make sure that you get to this point, open the door for them so that they can get out while they're running away.
I do like the idea of them working with the FBI then, and then you might have, and we've done something somewhat similar to this before, but like you might have one person observing from a distance and communicating with the person who's on the inside. So, you know, if they're trying to plan a bug or something, it's like, oh shit, like someone's coming down the hallway.
Get a move on.
Get
a move on. They just turn back up because, you know, you see them go away and then they must have forgotten something, so they're coming back in. He's walking back in now and, you know.
Yeah, hide under the desk, like, all right, he's coming around, like, go around to the other side.
Yeah, but you may not even be able to see that. You can basically just say, look, they just turned up.
Yeah, well, again,
and maybe it's like spotty sort of, maybe it's actually where the microphone's actually hooked up into the game so that the game actually understands if you talk too loud during this point, then it alerts people because it's, you know, proximity.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Well, it's something that's happened in I can't remember what that game was called.
Oh yeah,
the
Phasmophobia.
Phasmophobia.
Is that it?
Every time I see it, I think of Phantasmagoria, the bloody Sierra game, and I'm like, why is everyone going crazy for Oh, no. It's not Phantasmagoria. It's
not the 25-year-old full-motion video series that came on 17 CD-ROMs or whatever it was.
That I have both of them on Steam, which is just crazy.
Yeah, but does Steam give you the experience of switching discs every...
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, okay.
That's okay, because the first game had 7 chapters, and the second game had 5 chapters, and it was like 1 chapter per disc.
Well, that's logical. Yeah, I'm not sure where the gameplay is in that one, but overall, but I do like the general idea of it, and particularly around focusing on the communication between people in different locations, like talking over a radio and having to, like. Yeah, like each person has information that the other person doesn't have. And so literally having to communicate that, it becomes important to solve the mission. I think that adds a bit to that sort of thing where some other co-op games, it's not really part of it. So it's cool.
Okay. 3 to 1 movie.
Yeah. Let's try another one. Oh, okay. I don't know this movie, but I like the title. Closet Monster.
Dangerous Lies.
Okay.
So, tell me about Closet Monster, and then I'll tell you about Dangerous Lies.
I don't think we'll use the plot. It's from 2016. A creative and driven teenager is desperate to escape his hometown and the haunting memories of his turbulent childhood. But I want to take it much more literally than that and have something to do actually with monsters in the closet.
After losing her waitressing job, Katie Franklin takes a job as a caretaker to a wealthy elderly man in his sprawling, empty Chicago estate. The two grow close, and when he unexpectedly passes away and names Katie as his sole heir, she and her husband Adam are pulled into a complex web of lies, deception, and murder.
And
if she's going to survive, Katie will have to question everyone's motives. Even the closet monster.
Even the monster in the closet.
Even the people she loves.
Okay, I think we could take a little bit of that.
So, I kind of like a bit of both.
Yeah, I like the idea of a woman.
The elderly man is like the last keeper of, or the last protector of this realm.
Yeah, essentially the closets in this house can at times lead to this like realm of monsters of some sort.
There was tell of he had like 2 nieces and 2 nephews many years ago, and they got into one of the closets.
Yep. They never came back.
And some bad shit happened. They kept on telling him about, when they came back, how, they grew to old age.
Uncle,
and then
we met Mr. Tumnus, and he gave us Turkish delight.
Yeah, but it's actually a lot more darker than that. Like, they came back scarred.
We met Mr. Tumnus, and he forced Turkish delight down our throats, and then tied us up for years and years. And the White Witch came and froze our toesies. No, I do like. What sort of monsters are in these closets? Are these like whimsical Sesame Street monsters, or are these dark beings of, pain and?
I don't think they're such dark beings. I kind of like the idea that, he kind of calls them closet monsters, but really each closet is just a different gateway to another world. So maybe, you can't go to Narnia because that wardrobe was literally destroyed after, the bad shit that went down, and they...
So are we canonically making this that at one point he had the closet to Narnia, but now, you can't go there anymore. Yeah, we just allude to it.
Yeah, but in the last, like, the final thing that she does is she goes up into the attic and you see, like, the classic wardrobe with and it opens up and you see some snow coming out of it. Like, and it's like, number 2,
when we get the license,
it cuts
when we, from C.S. Lewis's estate. Yeah, that's kind of fun. So, all right. Is this then, what are these adventures? Are you, because I think we started off, you've been hired on as the caretaker to this elderly man. You're obviously not told anything about these portals. Are they always active? Is there something that triggers them, or certain times?
I think that it's sort of like a nightly thing that happens. Mm-hmm. Like when the sun goes down is when, the moon comes out. Is basically almost this whole house is powered by the moon.
Yeah.
So basically, you get a reprieve every time that it goes into, when it goes into the new moon phase or whatever, and everything disappears.
Yeah, there's no moon.
But when it's going towards the brighter the moon gets and the more full it gets, the more powerful it becomes.
Okay, so do you have to, like, every full moon have to, like, board up all the closets in this house or something?
I think when you first get there, like, most of them are boarded up because he is so old that he can't really do it anymore.
Okay, so they've been boarded up for years.
Yeah. And basically, you and your husband have gone and fixed up. Started fixing up some of these closets and taking down some of the boards.
I think just make it her. I think just make it her. I think just make it her alone.
Done with the husband?
No, I think leave the husband out just because I think it makes it less complicated to just and also just her dealing with it alone. And where all she's got is this old guy and he's not really telling her anything. And then, maybe he dies.
On his deathbed, I swear, I think it's a good idea that he sort of hands her his cane and say, this will protect you. And what it is like, it's actually a sword within the cane, but she just doesn't know this at this stage.
I kind of like, I guess it depends on how much of her sort of adventures then happen while he's alive, or are you saying it all happens after he dies? And then she's sort of discovering the secrets of this place.
I think there's one sort of adventure that happens on the night that he dies. And it's just before he dies, and, it's sort of like his final thing.
Sort of she gets freaked out. She doesn't get to manage. She doesn't do anything in there. She, stumbles into this other realm, is scared out of her mind, comes back out, and then, as he dies, he kind of hands over this cane sword.
Well, I kind of see him almost do I think the whole first act is you think that he's all weak and all this sort of stuff, and then he pulls a Yoda from Attack of the Clones and, whips out his sword cane.
Some of the monsters spill out of the closet with you. You're being curious. You find your way into the closet that was the least boarded up, and with the last board has fallen off, and you go in. And you find yourself in this other world, but then, out of the bushes, you hear rustling, things attack, you run back through, they come out, and he essentially uses the last of his life force to battle these things off and kill them, and then give you a very, very brief explanation and hand over the cane sword. And then
over the cane and dies in your arms, and you find out that, all the things that he was sort of telling you were, just these are the things that are going to keep you alive. That he was actually training you up to be the next guardian.
Well, I don't even know if it was true. I think this is almost mostly the beginning of the game, and I'm picturing it now as a bit of a action fighter game sort of thing where you go into these different realms and you're tracking down, I don't know, whatever it is. Maybe there's I like the idea that there's one door that's really boarded up in the house, but every night something's been banging on it from the other side. And essentially you've got, he tells you have to find these particular things or whatever that will get you, strong enough, or will protect the house or something because something's gonna bust through from that particular realm.
So you come back after he dies the next morning, and you see on the ground there's 2 nails that have come out of the board.
Yep.
And you try banging him back in, but basically there's a force that's actually stopping you from banging him back in. Because I think that it's a magical sort of thing that's actually pushing.
Yeah, it's going to break through. It's there's a time limit on this, and
it just so happens that the time limit also happens to be when you finish levels and when you collect the I don't think when you collect the crystal to actually power up the cane.
No, I don't think we're actually giving the player a literal time limit. It's more just it happens to be it happens to be exactly long enough to go through the other 5 realms
in 7 hours. No matter how far through the game you are, they break through, and if you're not ready, you're fucked.
Yeah, you can manage that. It's almost like a roguelike then, but it's over a 7-hour period. A 7-hour roguelike.
I'm about to do another run. See you in 7 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't pause it. If you turn the computer off, it keeps track of the system time. You can't turn it back on 12 hours later. It's just you died, sorry.
You weren't ready.
You weren't ready.
Asleep.
Yeah.
We tried waking you. we even sent the song Vengerbus to your to your phone. What was that did that? Oh, it was
Cool
it was
Games
one
Inc.
of the Cool Games Inc. Yep.
It was like It Follows, but with the Vengerbus guy.
God, it's been so long since I've actually listened. You know what, Ben? What 3 words?
Yeah, all right. So we're playing all our games tonight. In this case, we are taking 3 words from the what3words.com site, which has split the world up into 3-meter square chunks and has given each of them 3 words. So the 3 words I have are snippy, documenting, fanatical.
Ooh.
So are you playing some sort of documentary filmmaker, like, who's trying to break into a cult or something? Fanatics, like...
I think that this fanatical group are obsessed with the mascot of, like, the premiere, like, sort of program.
Snippy.
Where Snippy is the mascot, yeah.
Snippy the scissors.
Yeah, basically, it's... because in film you used to cut, like, the print and all that sort of stuff. It's literally an anthropomorphic scissor thing, but... basically, this mascot is not used that much anymore because things got a little dark. And now there's a cult following behind it. Like,
so what was it about it? Because presumably this was a very...
whole heap of snuff films were edited with this program. And
the AI that they used to power Snippy to be the most
which is a
useful
cloud-based AI.
Film editing companion. It learns from... It's like Snippy will learn from the best video editors out there and will help you make your best films as a result. But yes, it got tainted by people making snuff films.
Well, first of all, it was horror films, but then he took it literally.
Snippy did
and started making people kill people on film. And
right, so essentially Snippy's saying, like, this shot you've got is not realistic enough. Like, you need to go and murder somebody to make that. And that's the only thing that's going to make your film good.
What could look a little bit more realistic is if you stabbed these scissors into that man's head.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Why didn't you film it?
No, you ruined that right at the end. You need to kill someone else now. Do it again. As many times as it takes. Take 37.
So I see that this is sort of like this is in myth now that, there was a whole heap of murders that happened like 20 years ago.
Yeah. There's this AI experiment that went wrong. Once they realized it made the connection, they very quickly shut Snippy down. But there are these fanatics, there's these people out there who are like, Snippy lives. Snippy's out there somewhere.
And you're basically a reporter. You're doing a little bit of a story about, it's 20 years since the last recorded murder that was in relation to this rogue AI. And you're doing a retrospective on it. And I think this is where you fall down into the rabbit hole of...
Talking to the relatives of the people, of the killers and of the victims, talking to the company, the people who were at the company at the time, the people who are at the company now.
I'm thinking that they're all hush-hush about it. They won't talk about it. They basically say, what do you mean Snippy? Snippy... We've got no record of a Snippy.
Oh, the current people of the company definitely do. But then you hunt down the VP of engineering who was there at the time and helped build Snippy and then went off and lived in the woods for 20 years because he was so ashamed of what he was part of.
What I think you find out is that Snippy the AI never actually went away. Its base code is actually in the new AI of this company. that is, they've put out a new technological device, and the AI basis behind it is actually Snippy's code.
You know what could be really cool?
What?
If this worked. The whole game is you putting together this documentary in the software.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got this library of clips, and you can view them in any order. You can place them onto the timeline. You can cut and whatever them. But as you are watching these, like, eventually Snippy shows up, essentially. But only once you've... And I think maybe there is certain gameplay in, like, maybe you're trying to figure out... Maybe you've got, like, an outline that you're going for. It's like, okay, we want all the interviews with, the company up front. And so... But the names are all messed. Like, you're not good at naming your files. So you have to watch each one to figure out what's in there, and maybe you can, like, put some tags on them, rename them. And so it's exploring all these interviews that you've had.
Yep. But do you get to a certain point and you're trying to do something and you get like unreferenced memory exception or something like that, and you're trying to click out of it, and then you do something else and it's like, no, unreferenced memory exception, and it's like, oh, okay. Maybe I'll just click this button up here. It seems to be the only button that doesn't seem to be doing that, and it's basically you're being led down the path of re-enabling.
Oh yeah, you do it yourself, something like that.
Re-enabling the connection to the internet, and Snippy's AI.
I was thinking that, like, as you go through this, and I think you'd maybe want to gate the player in some way, like maybe once they've done the first section that sort of introduces it all, you get another USB stick that's got more interviews on it. It's like, oh, here's the next set of interviews or something, or it like unlocks a folder in some way, or you find a new folder. And then that's sort of taking you into the darker depths of it, and maybe you have, like, you've got notes from your producer or something of like, put together a scene that works well for this, and it does involve, like, taking different sections. Like, I want to juxtapose like the rabid fans of Snippy today, against the victims of the murders or something, or whatever.
Yeah.
You have these different things.
And I'm definitely picturing that your editor actually says the only thing I want you to do is it has to be edited in that old program. Like, we managed to find a copy of it, and we think it would be really cool to actually, our parent company, which is, that Abode software.
Abode.
They basically said, yeah, we want to try and get the stink off, and,
or
show that this is...
Is it just that you're working in their latest version of the software? Because I was almost thinking that at some point there's an update to your software that you have to and maybe it is when shit's going wrong, like, update to the latest version, like there's bug fixes. But it turns out that, like, they're bringing Snippy back, and this is the update that does it, essentially. Or maybe it's like you get a pre-release. Because you're working on this documentary, you get, like, first access to... So maybe you can have some different things where it's like, oh, you switch over to your email, and you've got a message there from the CEO at Abode or whatever, saying like, oh yeah, like we'd really love you to, since you're working on this, and you've done so well in telling the story of Snippy, who doesn't exist, it doesn't exist, or whatever. But it gives you access, and then of course, yes, you eventually see this little pair of scissors with big googly eyes come up on your screen and start taking things over. Oh, I love the idea of it cutting up all the... Like, you've been working with all this footage. Like, the different people involved, different stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, it's like cut it up so that the words from different people, like, telling them, making a message or something, flicking back and forth in this rapid way between all the different interviews that you've been putting together and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I really like that. That's cool.
That's cool, yeah. I do like those sort of, I don't know what you call them, in-screen games where you essentially, like a fake operating system and you can tell stories in such an interesting way. Should we try one more, Trev? Do you want to give me some words?
Listed paints enthusiastic.
Listed paints enthusiastic. Okay. So you think of some sort of like house painting thing, but that's as interesting as watching paint dry. So,
yeah, but I was sort of thinking, enthusiastic says to me a kid.
Okay.
So a kid who's out just trying to do summer jobs, like it's middle of summer and he's trying to help out his neighbors. He's put an article out saying that he can
mow lawns, paint fences,
do all that sort of stuff. And basically, that's he gets different phone calls and gets, to do different things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of, I don't know why I'm in a horror mood this time, but it's sort of like someone keeps on, asking him to do more things and more things and more things. And it's almost kind of creepy that it's this older guy who keeps on asking you to do these things, and whether, your mind is taking you to a place that you don't necessarily want to go to.
Yeah.
But we kind of just...
I think for that sort of game, I reckon you need to set it in like the 70s or the 80s.
Yep.
You've put an ad in the newspaper or whatever, and you're running to the phone every time it rings because you think it's someone with a new job for you, and you're sort of going around the neighborhood doing these odd jobs.
I kind of want a VHS filter over it. Having that sort of washed out color from the 1970s, and it's a little warmer than the color's a little warmer than you expect it to be, and it's got it's like that tiny bit of noise.
It's like
down
that
the bottom
60s, 70s home movie feel or something.
Yeah, early Wonder Years, sort of the graininess and that sort of stuff. I just something about it makes me think. What would you do? I'd stand up and walk out on you.
Would you stand up and walk out? And so, I think then if we're going in the horror direction, I think we obviously want to stay away from the child predator idea of I feel like that's too, I don't know, that's getting dark.
My whole idea was that he looked like a child predator, but really he was an alien predator, and he was looking for his next meal.
I can't do the sense.
He just goes invisible every time. He's wearing a mask.
We can allude to it in a way, but I don't want to be too obvious about it. I guess what I was more thinking is that you get these jobs, but you never see the person who's like giving you the jobs. They talk to you over the phone.
You
go
there
to their house,
and there's an envelope on the mat out the front saying, "Kevin, can you paint the fence today?" And then you go over and you paint the fence. And I think you mow the lawn today?
I think it is a bit more of this, like there's some like alien creature or supernatural creature, a bit like a Pennywise or something that's like luring other kids.
It's luring other kids, and you're just making the place look a little bit nicer for it. It's like, can you cut down some of those weeds? And
well, or it's just that this is the way it needs to feed every 4 years or whatever, and it finds the latest kid who's willing to come to a house to do these jobs, and it's just, it likes to get cleaned. Maybe it's the house itself. It's the malevolent spirit of the house. It's like
Monster House.
I'm getting a bit run down, so it gets this kid to come over and give it a bit of a paint and snip its lawns, and then it eats them.
Yeah, and he accidentally sort of, using the weed whacker, cuts the house, and there's just a little bit of blood seeping out.
Is this a flash house? Flash house.
You took it there. It's digesting these children. No, I do like the idea of it sort of, it may be being, some sort of ghostly entity or something like that. That's
I was thinking more
these.
of a Stephen King-esque kind of feel to it, where it's a malevolent force within this house, or some sort of possession or something.
So I'm picturing some of the other things that you've got to do as chores. Clean the gutters. Clean out all the weeds. Clean the garage, because I'm picturing there's like an old Christine-esque car in there, but it's like there's so much shit all on top of it and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You got to walk the dog. The dog's name happens to be Juco.
Is this all set in the town of, Castle Stones?
Castle Rock. Rookstone.
Rookstone.
No, I don't think it's. I think we just
Stephen
give a
King
little bit of
inspired,
stuff to.
but
Yeah.
Cool.
Stephen Queen. There we go.
Steve McQueen.
Stefan Queen.
Stephen McQueen. I don't know. I like the story stuff there. I don't know how the game would work out, but
So I sort of see the game not as a match 3, but more of a because you could easily do that. No, I sort of see it more of a
WarioWare.
Yeah, WarioWare doing little
in between all these, like, maybe not 3-second things, but like 20-second tasks.
Yeah.
And then in between
paint the fence. Yeah. You got $3 because you did a shit job.
You got $3 and one of your friends has gone missing.
Little Sally down the street
disappeared into the bowels of this house and never came out.
I'm loving the idea that if you look around during these missions, you see, like, on a telephone pole, all these have you seen me sort of signs just being stapled on top of each other
as you go. Yeah,
as it goes.
Yeah. As you get further and further into the game, there's more and more of them.
Oh, and it's like cleaning out the gutter, and it's like, good job. And then if you look off to the side, you see little Sally walking into the house. And you can actually go through the whole game without looking
noticing
off to the side.
Yeah.
You're just focusing in on the game, and it's like all these dark things are actually happening that you could have stopped at any time. But no, you were so...
You needed that pocket money to buy, a new bike so you can race off down to the forest, at the end of the summer.
Now, we know everything's always fun in VR.
Yeah. I think
raking the leaves can be fun in VR.
I think you'd have to for this one.
There's just something about, raking the leaves, and if you remember some of those things, like, you're focused on a task, and then they say, how many times does Team A pass the basketball?
Yeah.
And then there's the gorilla that walks through the middle of the screen, and you don't notice the gorilla because you're so focused on the task. Well, if you're so focused on the task and you get through the whole game and you don't notice all these...
The house is like
smiling at you.
You look back up, it's got 4 extra windows. Or it's not like it's changing shape every time, subtly.
Yep.
Or color.
Just depending on, like, you're raking the leaves and you turn around and look in the window and you see a face smiling at you. And it just steps away.
I'm getting kind of duck... What was it?
Duck season.
Duck season vibes, like, a bit as well, of just, like, this sort of creepy stuff starting to happen around you without explicitly being...
Did I tell you that I was playing that late at night one night?
Oh, right? God. It's fucking scary when that...
It is. So I got to the scene where I rang the cops and I hung up the phone, and then, he ends up, coming through the backyard, and he gets shot by the by the helicopter and all this sort of stuff. And he's just laying in the backyard, right? They haven't come and cleaned up the body or anything like that. And something comes on the TV. I literally couldn't take my eyes off him because he had these glowing eyes. And
you knew if you looked away, you wouldn't be there when you looked back.
I didn't even make it through to the end of the credits, so it didn't actually mark it off that I did that ending because it was that creepy and that scary, and doing it late at night was the worst idea that I ever had.
The game was so well done.
Okay, that's about it for tonight.
I think we'll leave it there with that creepy house game.
Oh, can I just say, if any of our listeners would like to see a show where maybe is something stupid one night where I play a horror game, which I hate playing horror games. I love thinking about horror games, but I hate playing them. I play a horror game and Ben just sits along and laughs along with. Let us know in a review.
Making creepy whispers in his ear.
Yeah, exactly. I reckon that would be... Leave a review. Let us know on Twitter. Just if you want to see... as
suggest
a
the games.
Thing, suggest a game for maybe a Halloween episode. Maybe we'll do a Halloween live playthrough of a game that... And I'll see how far I can get through it before I just give up.
Sounds good. But yes, if you do want to find us online and let us know in a review or find our Twitter or anything like that, you can go to podchaser.com/bitstorm. It's all there.
We'd also like to thank Crudust for allowing us the use of the song Mount to find off of the album Containment Failure.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott, and I'll see you in a year and a half.
No, rewind. Do that again.
Oh, damn it. I'll see you in a year and a half.